Hey friends, it's Elizabeth. Thank you for checking in on week 2 of More to the Story. I'm going to start out with a quick question. Are there any people who, the friends you have now, you actually didn't like them when you first met them? Chances are your answer is probably yes, because it's actually pretty common. In fact, you probably have some friends that didn't like you when they first met you. And maybe it's not that they disliked you, they just didn't understand you. Maybe they thought that you were strange or stuck up or rude or annoying. And then they actually spent time with you and realized that there's more to the story, that you weren't the person they originally thought you were. And so that's what we're talking about in this series, because the reality is there are some topics that we've possibly all had impressions of or opinions about. And the way we see things are slightly off, twisted, or just wrong. And so there's more we need to understand. There's more to the story. There are topics that you expect to talk about in church, right? Topics like prayer, love, the Bible, Jesus, obviously, that makes sense. And then there are things you don't expect to talk about in church. So maybe like NFL football or Harry Styles or streaming content on Twitch, or how to get more followers on TikTok. So today we're going to be talking about Harry Styles. Just kidding. Maybe next time. But we are going to talk about a topic that you don't expect to talk about in church. Are you ready? We're talking about porn. Maybe you're surprised I just said that, or maybe you just rolled your eyes because straight up you're like, it's not a big deal. Or maybe you're just like totally disgusted. But whether or not you think it's a problem, here are a few things you should know. Depending on what kind of music you listen to, you hear references to things that are somewhat pornographic on a pretty consistent basis. It doesn't seem like a big deal when artists like DaBaby or Cardi B rap about it, or when a comedian jokes about it. But why is it such a big deal that I'm talking about it then? If you watch TV, movies, Netflix, Hulu, etc., you've probably seen things that could be labeled as porn. Just because it wasn't an X-rated website on your phone doesn't mean that it didn't have undertones of porn or pornographic imagery. So I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty. I'm just trying to make a point that this topic isn't as foreign and far away as you think. The average age of exposure to porn is 11 years old. So we're talking about something that is already affecting someone around you. By no means am I assuming that all of you have had encounters with porn. I'm just making a point that this is a preteen thing, a teenage thing, and an adult thing. This affects everyone on the planet who has access to the internet. And if something affects everyone on the planet, we feel like it's okay and maybe even necessary to talk about. So we're not just affected by porn, we're actually influenced by the culture of porn. So here's what I mean by that. This is not something that could potentially tempt some of us. It's not something that just affects some of us. It is something that influences all of us. And why is that? Well, because porn culture is all around us. Snapchat, sexting, movies, music, advertisements, conversations, apps, like the list goes on. It's everywhere. Plus, the porn industry generates $12 billion a year. 12 billion. That's more than the combined annual revenues of ABC, NBC, and CBS. it's around us all the time, and it's impossible to spend time around something and not be affected by it. When it comes down to it, porn is sexualized content designed to get a specific response. A lot of people start watching porn because they're curious, so it's kind of like sex education. The problem is that porn was never designed to educate you. It was designed to hook you and make you addicted. It was designed to manipulate you, and we're being influenced by something that's teaching us a fake education. And so the truth is that there's more to the story, and that's what we're gonna talk about for the next few minutes. So there's a book in the Bible called Proverbs. Proverbs is in the Old Testament, and it's a book of poetry that's primarily about wisdom. And so these proverbs were written by an ancient king named Solomon, who was famously known as an extremely wise person. So you might be thinking, oh, what does an ancient king have to say that would be relevant to our lives now? Some of it may be confusing, but a lot of it actually makes sense in the lives of teenagers and adults. So for example, the verse we're going to look at today says this: "The simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps." Simple is basically naive. For example, a simple person is someone who believes everything they read online, or they fall for any prank because they're really easily tricked. They're gullible. They believe anything. And when it comes to porn, maybe you've heard or thought of statements like this: "It's not hurting anyone. There are worse things I could be doing. I'm not doing anything. I just looked. At least I'm not having sex with a real person." And so we've been naive when it comes to porn. We've believed everything. But hear this: porn never tells the whole story. There's a website called fightthenewdrug.org. And so they've compiled decades of studies from respected institutions about pornography. Their website has assembled like over 1,000 pornography related articles. So here are some of the research facts they've discovered that are very interesting. Studies have found that porn use is correlated with less sexual and relationship satisfaction. The sex acts shown in pornography are unrealistic and often abusive. Studies have found that porn use is correlated with lowered quality of life and poorer health. And pornography makes violence appear sexy. Porn doesn't tell you the facts when you look at it. It wants you to be addicted and distracted. It does not want you to have a full, complete life. So consider these things. Porn will not make you better at sex. It might actually make you worse because it damages your relationships. Porn will not make sex better for you. It will actually make it less desirable because it doesn't give you realistic expectations of sex. And porn will not help you understand what sex is like. It will actually confuse you and lead you further away from understanding it. So God isn't against porn because he thinks that the act of sex is bad. He's anti-porn because pornography has twisted what he intended sex to be. So he's anti-porn because it devalues people he cares about, which is everyone. He's anti-porn because it's bad for you and it's bad for others. God is 100% a loving God, and there's absolutely nothing loving about pornography. And so the second part of our verse says this: "The prudent give thoughts to their steps." This means that a person evaluates information carefully so they don't fall into a trap. And that's exactly what porn is a trap. It's a trap that wants something from you, time, attention, money, addiction, etc. And in exchange, it gives you a false sense of sexual closeness. Culture doesn't tell you that because they don't see it themselves. So a prudent person is basically someone who's wise. So the opposite of whenever we were talking about a simple, naive person. And many, many years after Solomon wrote the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament, a man named Paul wrote a letter that became a part of the New Testament. He wrote to a group of people that he loved and cared a lot about. And he said this: "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise." When Paul is saying be very careful, it's similar to Solomon saying give thought to your steps. Don't believe everything you hear. Porn never tells the whole story. When you're being manipulated, step the other way. Be prudent, be wise, get yourself away from something that is so destructive. So there are tons of steps we could all take, but for the sake of today, we're simply going to focus on two things. One, refuse to be fooled. Train your brain. When you see the ad or Snapchat or whatever, argue with it. Question it. What is this trying to sell me or convince me to do? You're all adults. You're so smart. You see through so many things that are fake or manipulative. So you have access to those like same smarts when it comes to porn culture. So remember, it's everywhere and it wants something from you. It does not care about you or what's best for you. It wants to trap you. So be wise, be smart, be careful. Number 2, refuse to participate. Create a plan to set yourself up for success before you even reach the trap. Think ahead. What will you do when you come across pornographic content or are tempted to believe the lies of porn culture? If an industry makes $12 billion a year, you can believe that it is very persuasive and convincing. So remember, it's a trap, and it is not possible to get out of every trap by yourself. So talk to a trusted adult or a small group leader. Let them know what's going on so that they can help keep you accountable. None of us want to be a part of something that manipulates us, and we don't want to associate with something that hurts us and others. So we are smart and we don't want to be controlled. So don't forget, porn never tells the whole story. On the other hand, we have a God who loves us immensely, and out of his love for us, wants good things for us. He wants us to thrive, not suffer, and porn is hurtful and damaging, but God wants what's better for us. He's given us incredible minds to see through the lies and incredible wills to walk away. So choose to be wise and be smart. And remember, refuse to be fooled and refuse to participate.